Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day today. Today we're going to be talking about a very nifty little optic setup focusing mainly on the Sig MSR. But before we get into the video, if you'd like to help out the channel in any way, you can like, share, and subscribe because of course all that stuff is free. If you want to support financially, there's Subscribestar, which is basically a pro to a Patreon, which there's going to be a lot of exclusive content on. And you can also buy steel targets from me. They're on sale. Well, actually I shouldn't say they're on sale. They have free shipping on everything, and I should have hangers back in stock by the time this video goes up. And to the YouTuber viewer watching this movie, all shooting was done in a controlled environment on private property and private ranges, and we are talking about optics, not firearms, and we will not be showing any modification or creation of said firearms. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. So the Sig Msr, and the way I came about this was I spent my own money on it. Nobody sent anything out to me. I also bought it in a combo deal though with the Sig Juliet 3 Micro, which is their new budget micro magnifier. Extremely good. We will talk about it a little bit later. But in my opinion, one of the best deals I found, it was $250 shipped to my door for both of them. Usually though, the Sig Msr is around $100 to $130 on the high end. You can find it for around $100 on a good deal, so that's what I'm going to go with. And in my opinion, it is one of, if not the best, super budget red dots. Now it is still $100, which is something, but again, it's not super expensive. It is actually fairly comparable in a lot of ways and applications to the more higher end red dots like the Sig Romeo 5, Vortex Crossfire, and a few other red dots that are around the $150 price range. So for $100 or a little bit over $100, I think it is very, very good. Let's get into some really boring specifications. With the mount, which is a standard riser, it comes with just one. It doesn't have a low mount or anything else like that. I will mention that the mounts are interchangeable with the Sig Romeo 5, so anything that fits the Sig Romeo 5 will fit the Sig MSR, and I did mount the Sig MSR for a little while on a low riser on an offset on 45 degrees, and it worked okay as that, though the red dot is a little big. So 141 is the standard height, so it is a perfect co-witness, and right now, as you can see it, I have it on a 1/2 inch riser. It has a 20mm objective, which is perfectly fine, and it also has a 2 MOA Dot, weighs just under 5 ounces, like 4.9 ounces without the lens covers. It does come with clear lens covers, as you can see on here right now, which are really nice and fairly high quality. We have, I believe, 1 MOA clicks, but they could be half MOA clicks. The difference to me on a red dot is not very important, especially since you're not really going to be going beyond 300 yards even with a magnifier. We have 12 different brightness settings. We have 2 night vision and 10 regular. It is nice to have night vision settings, especially if you're running it on a riser like this where it puts us up to a 191, which is a lot more comfortable with night vision, especially in such a budget package. For me though, who doesn't have any night vision currently, we'll be working on that soon, doesn't really matter to me. But one thing I do like on it, and that some people won't, is that it is a very, very basic red dot. So basically, it doesn't have any auto off or any auto on functions, no MOTAC or anything like that. You set it and you forget it, and they pretty much just leave it there. Right now I have it on setting 5, which is more than bright enough for indoor usage, and on outside when it's in full daylight, I generally have it on 7 or 8. Now I should note that the battery life on the Sig MSR is rated at 20,000 hours at a medium setting. So I expect to get about 2 years of usage out of the battery. Now, I won't really be using this red dot as a home defense red dot, though it totally could be. And again, you would just need to change your batteries every year or so and you would be just fine. Now, the reason that this has a 20,000 hour battery life versus the 50,000 hour battery life of some of the other red dots is because it does not use the same battery. So these use like a 2032, and this one here uses a 1632. So it is a slightly smaller battery, which of course gives you slightly less overall life, but the red dot itself is very crisp. I'll of course put in some inset footage for you, and at setting 10, it is incredibly bright. Very, very bright, more bright than you would really ever need, but again, it is nice to have. Now, one thing that I know right off the bat that some people won't like is that it has exposed turrets. So the turrets are not capped or covered like they are on a lot of other red dots. They are exposed They are inset very nicely, and they are very, very tactical. I'll let you guys just, not tactical, tactile, so I'll let you guys hear these. They have extremely good clicks, way better clicks than they honestly should have for $100. Much better than a lot of like LPVOs and other things like that. Inset nicely. I don't mind that they're non-capped. Again, this isn't a like quote-unquote professional grade optic. It's not something that's marketed as that. It is a target, hunting, home defense, those sort of applications, and for everything like that, it has been perfectly fine. Now, I live in Western Washington, where it rains about 70% of the year, and this got rained on 3 or 4 different occasions very, very heavily. When I'm not shooting it, if I'm running a different gun at the range, this just gets thrown on the ground and again just gets soaked. And so I haven't had any issues even after close to 1,000 rounds at this point. I haven't had any issues with water or any sort of other problems with it, even with the exposed turrets. Now, I believe it is IPX7 rated, so that is 30 minutes at a meter. I could be wrong on that. It might be IPX67 or something like that, but I believe it is IPX7 certified, which is good. It does have O-ring sealed battery caps. It does have the battery cap very large on top, which leaves the sides nice and sleek, but it is a little bigger on top just because of where the battery tray is located. Now, in my opinion, one of my favorite things about the Romeo MSR is, for the money, it has some of the best glass on the market, pretty much, period. There's basically no blue tint to it whatsoever. I would say $400, it is basically on par with an EOTech glass, if you've ever used one of their holographic optics. Very, very close to that, maybe not quite as bright, just because, of course, it's not as big of a window. But it does a very, very good job of allowing you to see basically everything without any distortion or weird colors or anything like that, and still gives you a 2-year battery life. The dot itself is not perfectly crisp. I don't have an astigmatism, and you guys will see it here in the inset video footage. In a bright environment where the red dot is set properly, it is very crisp, but it is actually a little more ovally than it is a perfect 2 MOA circle, and you can tell that under magnification, which of course I will show you with the Juliet 3 micro. But the dot itself is precise enough to do groupings with. I did do groupings with it at 50 yards, which is not really a test of the optic, but it is a test to see how precise that dot can be, because at 50 yards you should be able to do a 1-inch group. Even with a red dot or a red dot with a magnifier, you should be able to do that, and hopefully that red dot is precise enough to give you a consistent point of aim. And for me it was. Now, if you have an astigmatism, given how good or bad it is, it could be an issue for you, and you could see a lot more starbursting than I do. On top of that, I did mention it already, but I did use this on several different guns. A lot of the shooting was on my 16-inch 5.56 gun, and then on a 10.5, a 16-inch gun, this guy right here that you would have seen mostly in the intro. And then I also did some shooting on a 7.62 by 39. And as I mentioned, we're at around 1,000 rounds, probably not quite 1,000 rounds, which, yes, is quite expensive. At this point, it would be much cheaper for me to hire a CGI guy to do just CGI in the bullets and all that sort of fun stuff, and just sit out there and pretend to fire. But that being said, about 1,000 rounds on the Sig Msr. We did also do a quick submersion test, and it was perfectly fine, as I mentioned, on top of getting rained on multiple range trips. And I also did a double drop test. Now, the double drop test, kind of my bad a little bit, but I got about 1 MOA shift at 50 yards. So it was about a 1/2 inch center to center group movings between the first 5-round group and the second 5-round group. The problem was that I had it mounted to this 1/2 inch riser, and I didn't have time before the video came out to go redo the test. So I'm not sure if that shift was due to the riser. This is a really good riser, or to the mount or the optic itself. So there is kind of a disclaimer there, just that I did the drop with the optic mounted to a 1/2 inch riser, a UTG riser, which in my opinion is great, and 1 MOA is perfectly acceptable for me. That is still on target at 300 yards for a full-size target, so for me that does not matter. If you're doing precision shooting or something else, then it can be a bigger deal. But for me, 1 MOA shift or less at 50 yards, so again, about a 1/2 inch difference of center to center of your 5-round groups or 3-round groups or whatever you're shooting, for me is perfectly acceptable. For some of you, that's not going to be, and that's just fine. But I do want to mention that it was done on the riser, not just on the optic itself, so there is an additional variable in there. Now, to talk about it briefly in conjunction with the Juliet 3 Micro, one of the things that of course makes the MSR so good is that it has great glass and a decent dot. So even under magnification, the glass does not distort the image or make it darker or bluish colored or anything like that. So under magnification, any of those issues will get worse, or any of those effects will get more noticeable. So when you're using the magnifier, which has a fairly short eye relief, you don't get any of that additional discoloration, darkness, anything like that. I think the magnifier also has really good glass, I should mention. And the dot, which is decent, not perfect, but it is a very decent, very fairly uniform dot, is still clear and usable under magnification. So like I said, I would not have any issues using this dot and magnifier out to 300 yards. I do like having a magnifier on a dot, especially something like this where I can just pull it off and then throw it on behind a different red dot. Makes this very, very versatile. One thing I do want to mention about red dots is that I'm not a big fan of the 1-4-1, so that is a drawback. It is only $100 optic, so if you were to either buy a Romeo 5 mount that's either a 153 or something even a little higher than that, that is going to increase the cost a little bit. So in some cases, if you're going to buy an expensive riser for it, you might as well just go with the Sig Romeo 5, get better battery life, and of course get a taller mount included. For instance, here is the Sig Romeo 5, which is a little bit more of a durable design. It is a little bit heavier. You can tell there's a lot more material in the mount itself. The glass is also very good. The dot's also very good. I'm pretty sure it's the exact same glass and dot technology that they're using in a different, more durable body. I'm pretty sure that's the only main difference. On top of that, the Romeo 5 also has MOTAC, I believe, which is fine in my opinion. Again, I prefer just on and off, and I have left this MSR on for well over a month now, but again, with the 20,000 hour battery life, I'm not expecting it to die until sometime in 2022. So right now, in my opinion, the Sig Romeo MSR is the best $100 red dot. There are better red dots on the market, but you're gonna need to spend, $50 to $100 more to get a better red dot with more features. The only main downside to it that I would say is the mount itself being just a 1-4-1 mount is a little bit obnoxious for me, but I almost always use this riser, this specific riser. I think I have 3 or 4 of them. Whenever I'm using a absolute co-witness height red dot, I almost always have them on a 1/2-inch riser, so it pushes them up to a 191, which is very comfy and very quick for me. Once you get used to it, you basically never want to go back to a lower mount. You still can, of course, but you don't want to go back. Other than that, it has been exceptionally durable. It has been very, very fast. It's very precise. You can put shots exactly where you want, and it also works really well in conjunction with the magnifier. Now, as I mentioned, I bought this from Borelli.com, I believe is where I got it, and I got the red dot and the magnifier for $250. And I've been using the magnifier quite a bit. If you've seen any footage of me using a red dot recently in like my last 3 or 4 videos, it has been with this Juliet 3 Micro, which is very, very good in my opinion. One of the best budget magnifiers as well. Much better than the Vortex VMX3 and the Holosun HMX3 or whatever that one there is called. Much better than both of those for a lower cost. Right now, I think you can only get it in a combo with the MSR, which again, for about 250 bucks, in my opinion, is 100% worth it. So I don't really have any complaints with the Romeo MSR itself, especially for the money. It has night vision settings, it's very easy to zero, very durable, it holds at zero, very good glass, decent dot. It does have a large battery compartment on top. Some people might not like that. They might like just simple buttons on top, makes it look a little cleaner. Very, very minor gripes. It does not have capped turrets, but they are recessed and they are very, very tactile, which is very nice, very high quality feeling. The entire package feels very high quality. The machining work on it is very good. On the mount itself, you have these really cool curves and insets, and it's a very, very lightweight package. Again, the entire optic weighs 4.9 ounces, I want to say. Very, very lightweight. So if you're doing a lightweight build, this will absolutely fit the build for you. On top of it, as I mentioned, the machining quality is very, very good. Sig does a really good job with a lot of their products, especially their second-gen products are generally much better than their first-gen products. But the MSR has been out for a while, And as it stands right now, again, I think it is the best $100 or in that price ballpark, $100 red dot. Again, there are better red dots on the market, but if you're looking for something for home defense, which I would be 100% confident in this as a home defense optic, because as I mentioned, it's been more than durable enough for me. I like that it is set and forget, so like when I'm indoors, I leave it at setting 5, maybe 6, depending on how bright you want it, and then you just set it and forget it for about 2 years. Now, I would recommend changing your battery every year, just in case you have a bad battery or something weird, if it's not in the proper environment and it dies a little faster than it should. Lots of odd things, but the battery life is more than acceptable, the dot is more than acceptable, and the glass durability, all that sort of other stuff, and the price is also exceptional. So that is about everything that I have for the video, guys. I know it's a little bit more of a short video, but it's a fairly simple red dot that just works really, really well and is an exceptional value for the money. So that's about it for me, guys. Like I said in the beginning, if you want to help out the channel in any way, you can like, share, and subscribe. You can check out my subscribe star, which again is just a Pro 2A Patreon. You get extra content there. And I should have more plates in stock soon with some newish designs and some hangers on the website. So if you want to check out any of that stuff, that's all in the links down below. But like I said, that's about it for the video, guys. So thank you guys once again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace off.